following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College. From the Georgia Southern Sports Network, powered by Learfield IMG College.
Wings up, Eagle Nation! Touchdown, Georgia Southern!
This is Inside Eagle Nation, your all-access look into Eagle athletics.
Taking a look through all the other action in Georgia Southern athletics this past week. A lot of road action. A lot of teams hitting the old I-16 out of town.
Getting on the steel horse and taking us to parts north, south, west, wherever. Can't really go too much farther east.
Now let's return to the Learfield IMG College studios. Here are your hosts, Colin Lacy and Danny Reed.
That's a fact, Jack.
Welcome into another edition of Inside Eagle Nation, episode number 176, coming to you from historic Hanner Fieldhouse, and a new special guest host this week, again with Danny Reed on the road with the Eagle Club Tours, I think up in Dublin tonight, getting ready to go in about 30 minutes from now, up at the Dublin Country Club. Welcome in the left-handed pitcher for Georgia Southern Baseball, Jay Thompson. What's going on, dude?
Nothing much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time being on air. Some TV time.
You ready to get this going?
Yeah, of course.
We dive into everything Georgia Southern athletics. First off, as taking a look at Georgia Southern men's golf will play in the Stitch Intercollegiate in Raleigh, North Carolina, hosted by NC State at the Looney Pool Golf Course Friday and Saturday. Women's golf currently in the middle of the Mimosa Hills Intercollegiate up in Morganton, North Carolina. They are just about done with day one. Georgia Southern second in the pack, just behind USC Upstate. They are 10 over par. USC Upstate 4 over par. And about to finish up round one. It will continue tomorrow for head coach Mimi Burke and company in Georgia Southern women's golf. Men's tennis had both of their matches supposed to be at Florida Atlantic and Southern Miss, but both of those got canceled because of weather down in Florida. But they will face number 69 Georgia State on Wednesday at the Wallace Tennis Center here in Statesboro, and then head to Conway, South Carolina to take on Coastal Carolina at noon on Saturday. Georgia Southern women's tennis getting 2 out of 3 on the week, as they got the victory over Mercer at home 4-3, fell to number 68 UT Arlington on the road in Sunbelt play 4-0, and then got the victory 4-2 over Texas State out in San Marcos. That's where Georgia Southern will head next. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation. But a Friday matchup at the Wallace Tennis Center in non-conference play against Florida A&M, and then they will head to Jonesboro, Arkansas for a Sunday matchup against Arkansas State. Georgia Southern softball fell to number 15 Georgia 12-7 on Wednesday. That was one that Georgia Southern took the lead late in that game off a couple of home runs, but Georgia a couple of home runs themselves in the 6th and 7th innings to make it a 12-7 lead for the Bulldogs. And then App State got 2 out of 3 from Georgia Southern, but the Eagles did win the Sunday game 11-8 up atop the mountain. They will have a doubleheader in Charleston, South Carolina to face on Charleston Southern on Wednesday, and then 3 this weekend in Statesboro, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against Coastal Carolina, 6 o'clock on Friday, 2 o'clock on Saturday, 1 o'clock on Sunday. We dive into what Georgia Southern baseball had this past week. The first one was a Tuesday matchup with the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia gets the best of Georgia Southern 7-2. Up at Foley Field. But take us into this game. This is one that I don't know that you would necessarily call it a rivalry, but there's definitely something a little extra when you're playing UGA and Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I would say that between like Georgia Southern and Georgia, it's a huge rivalry. It's one of those games that being a Georgia boy, you hear everything about red and black, everything. And so you come to Georgia Southern, it's you want to make a name for yourself, and you want to make it known that UGA is the top dog or top bird, whatever you want to call it. So going into that game, I think all of us were amped up and ready to go, and they just played a little bit better than us that night, and it happens. But I know that seasons are different, and I'm still living on that high of a COVID year. Nice little 3-0 sweep off Georgia, so gotta shout out to that team and what we did that year. That
was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Being from Cumming, did you grow up a Georgia fan, or were you a fan of somebody else growing up?
So this is where it gets a little tricky. I heard a lot about Georgia all growing up, but I actually grew up a huge Florida Gator fan. And it was because my aunt and uncle, they lived down in Marathon, Florida in the Keys, and kind of picked it up down there. But when I was younger and I saw Georgia Southern beat Florida for the first time, and I knew right out of high school I wanted to come to Georgia Southern because I knew they had something special down here.
Gotcha. Eagles would then head to Louisiana to take on the Raging Cajuns. Georgia Southern falls 6-3 on Friday. It was a good start by Jalen Payton. Had to battle through a couple of things before hits 3 runs for Payton over 94 pitches. And we've talked about it a lot. The Louisiana environment. It'd be the first time that you got to see what the Cajuns were all about. Yep. What's it like playing in that environment? Probably one of the better that Georgia Southern gets to play in this year.
It was unreal. When we got to practice on Thursday at the field, I was looking at it and I was just like, wait, this is a Sun Belt team. This looks like we're playing in Stark Vegas or Ole Miss or just one of those big time programs. But I mean, it was unbelievable, just the stadium. And then Friday night came rolling around, and it was. Man, there was a little 5-year-old down the line in the pen, and he was giving it to us just left and right. We'd be running down. Give a nice little shout out to Jake Martin. This little kid wanted a high five and just took it right away from Jake, and he was doing it all night. And I finally got to the point where I just stopped talking to them, stopped acknowledging them. They were just feeding into it, and there was this one like 3-year-old boy, and
a 3-year-old,
3-year-old, and he was just like, hey, can I get a ball? And I got a ball, gave it to him, and all the other like 5, 6, 7-year-old kids were over there just hounding me after I gave them that ball because I had a Georgia Southern logo on it. Man, they were wearing me out. But it's a great environment. They love to get rowdy. They love to they love their baseball, man. I'll tell you what, they were giving us all a bunch of crap, and then after the game they feed us. I know on Sunday we got a nice I think 12-ounce steak. It was good. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing. When you go to Louisiana, you're not going to not eat well.
Oh yeah, no. I think me and Thomas Higgins had Raising Cane's 3 or 4 times over the weekend. I know the nutritionist isn't going to be happy with us, but we had that a bunch, and then we had some seafood pasta and actually some beef tips on Saturday night. And man, it was good, but man, their spices are different.
Get you a little bit?
Oh, it got me good. I was about to jump in the hotel pool just to get some water. I couldn't find any.
Move on to Saturday down in Cajun country. Georgia Southern gets the 4-3 victory over Louisiana. It was a game that Georgia Southern was down 3-0 from the 4th inning until the 8th. Noah Ledford has a 2-run home run in the 8th inning, and then 2 come across in the 9th inning. It was an RBI safety squeeze by Parker Beatier. And then take us through, you're in the dugout for this. Jason Swan busting it down the line, beats out the throw from Bobby Leday. What's that dugout like whenever he reaches first and you realize you just took the lead?
I was actually in the bullpen, and I was sitting there, and I kind of do this rally tower thing when it's a close game, whether we're down, tied, just kind of get some good like vibes, good juju, whatever you want to call it. And people are asking me, they were like, hey, we need to do it. And I was like, nah, I don't feel it yet. I don't feel it. And it started going off, and basically Swan gets up to bat, and they're just like, you feeling it yet? And I'm like, nah, I don't feel it yet. And hits a ground ball, and I was just like, man, I don't know. And then Swan beats it, and we're all going nuts. And everybody's just like, yeah, we didn't need your rally cap anyway, but that's cool.
All right, what's your rally cap?
So I get a bunch of the hats from all the guys, and I start with my hat, and it's forward, and then I put one on backward and go all the way up top till it gets to about right about here, I want to say. Right. And it's just a rally tower, rally cap. It's just kind of something I picked up watching baseball growing up, and kept it going. But yeah, after that game, my dad texts me and he goes, dude, great game. But can you tell Swanee to check his waistband? I think he broke his waistband on the way down to first. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'll tell him. And I showed it Swan, and we had a good laugh about it.
We're going to get plenty more into your dad a little bit later on. But Georgia Southern moves on, and they fall 5-1 against the Ragin' Cajuns on Sunday. And even though you lose 2 out of the 3 in that series, that's a series that feels like postseason baseball. It's 2 really good college baseball teams and 3 really good college baseball games. And being somebody that loves the game of baseball, even though you come up on the short end of it, that's got to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was we talk about it a lot just as a team, like a roller coaster, whether it's in a season, life, a game. We've had a lot of comeback wins. We've had a lot of close wins, and it's just a matter of the game, and it happens like that. But the one thing that I think we all just preach to each other, it's not even coaches, it's just us as players, is that whether we're down by 20 or up by 20, you keep playing the same way, whether it's the first or last out. And I think that was one that just went the other way, and that's okay, because we'll have plenty more of those. And but yeah, the postseason baseball field, it was dang close, that's for sure. I'll tell you what, they were in our mouth, in our face the whole game. Ooh, boy.
We've talked about it a lot during games that this team feels like it's a never quit mentality, find a way. There's been some crazy games that you'll probably never see again of how Georgia Southern wins games. Being a part of a lot of different wins in a lot of different ways, how much fun is that?
It's so much fun. To be honest with you, I couldn't say that about our team a couple years ago or last year. It was just kind of one of those teams that we have this year, and so we'll be sitting there and it's just like we're down by 3 or 4 in the last 3-4 innings, and it's just like nothing's changed. It's still like we're playing the first out, and it's fun. I didn't even know that's what they were calling it till I went on Twitter one day, and it was find a way, and I was just like, oh, I kind of like that. It's a nice little ring to it, if I do say so myself.
I think we're trying to get William Martin at Southern Exchange to make shirts.
Oh, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
We've talked about it a lot with you, that you love the game of baseball. You love being around the game of baseball. Dive back into your story. Where did the love of baseball really start for you?
The love of baseball. So I started when I was about 4 years old. My dad was going to be my first t-ball coach. It was a YMCA league, and he actually couldn't. He was traveling and doing his job, so my mom stepped in, and my mom was actually my first coach. And growing up, just kind of kept playing, loved it. I always asked my dad if I could play football, and he played semi-pro football growing up. And he told me, he was just like, no, you're not going to do it until you get to middle school, just because like my body hurts from it. And so I was just like, okay. So he let me play basketball, let me play baseball and all that. And I just couldn't get enough of baseball. And I'm thankful for that more than anything. My body would be hurting if I was playing football too. But yeah, and growing up, my mom was probably the one doing the stat book like you do, and she loves all the analytics and stuff. Like when I get TrackMan sheets from the coaches and everything, now I give it to her because she loves looking at it. And I remember hours on hours of batting practice that she would front toss to me or soft toss or on a tee or whatever. And my dad was actually an umpire for a lot of years, just like you. I'll say you're the better umpire.
Yeah, you've never seen it.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen my dad. Don't you worry. My dad had a short leash, that's for sure. He had some good toss stories, that's for sure. I was just around it so much, whether it be on an umpiring side or my mom being like my first coach and just kind of loving it. And it's just one of those things.
You've told me that you've umpired too.
I have.
Wait, when? How long?
So I don't really talk about it a whole lot because I like to say I'm better than my dad, but he knows that's not true. He knows a lot more than I do on that side. But he actually got me started when I was 15 in high school, just to make a couple of bucks. And so I did it. I did some t-ball. I did a little bit of older ball, and my dad was just like, you're pretty good. Like you know the game, you know what's going on. You just need to learn the umpiring aspect of it. And I was just like, Dad, I'm not going to lie. I can't be an umpire. And he goes, why is that? And I said, I probably argue with more umpires than anybody. So there's no reason for me to be an umpire, because if somebody argues with me, I'm going to be like you and just toss them. And he goes, fair enough. And so I stopped at around 17, 18 years old.
Did you ever do a game with your dad?
I did plenty with my dad. That was one of his like stipulations. He was like, I'll do behind home plate, so if I get hit in the arm or something, you're not going to get hurt. And so I did the field majority of my time. So
you were telling me your dad got all the way up to like D2 ball? Yeah,
he did a little bit of college ball, a little D2. And he was a good umpire. He just had other things. He had me, he had my sister, so he wanted to be able to go do other stuff and watch us play, so that's why.
So we've talked about this, and a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, you and I have had this conversation, but we're going to talk about it again, one, to make sure you're telling me the truth.
All right.
But we've talked about it with your dad, a huge influence on who you are today. Mm-hmm. But he's a Cleveland fan?
He is. So he grew up just outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
To be honest, it is Cleveland, Ohio. But he grew up a Browns fan, and an Indians fan, now the Guardians. He's not too happy about that, but that's okay. He just loved everything Cleveland, everything. It didn't matter what it was. He would go to everything. He was actually I'm trying to think of the name, the guy that goes up and down the aisles for beer, hot dogs, and all that.
Vendor?
Yeah, he was a vendor for a lot of years while he was in high school, so he can make some dollars, but he used to see like Jack Lambert for Pittsburgh play. I know he talks about the Brian Sipe days in Cleveland, but he also, one of his favorite players growing up, baseball-wise, was Albert Bell. He loved him, and so he still wishes Municipal Stadium was still there. But we all know that Progressive and the Brown Stadium is way better.
When did you realize that playing baseball at the next level, at the college level, was something that would be in your future?
To be honest, I didn't really know. I was a senior in high school, and I didn't have any offers, really. I had, I think, one D3 offer, and I actually got a chance from a coach that was that used to coach at Lambert High School in my county. He went down to Fort Myers, Florida, to start the FSW program, Florida Southwestern program. And he saw me pitch, and he was just like, yeah, I think you have a chance. You're not very good right now, but you have a chance. And I'm like, all right, I'll take that. So I actually decided to commit to FSW, and was very grateful for the opportunity. And just didn't work out. And so I ended up transferring to Gordon State Gordon State College because I had a buddy that I played travel ball with, and I said, "Hey, do you have any spots?" And he goes, "Yeah, we need some left-handed arms." I said, "Will you give me a chance to play first too?" And he goes, "Yeah, you will." And went there. I wasn't the greatest hitter. Knew that. I know that now. Didn't know that then. If you look at my stats, they're not good. I think I had 7 ABs, 3 Ks, no hits, maybe 2 or 3 walks. That was about it. And that was the end of my hitting career.
So did you think you were going to college as a hitter, or did you know pitching was going to be?
I think in the back of my head, I knew I was going to be a pitcher, but I just wanted to live the pipe dream of being Shohei Ohtani for a little longer, and it didn't work out. But I actually came in to Gordon. I was an over-the-top pitcher. Sat out my first 25 or 26 games, didn't play, and I was fielding ground balls at first base and would throw side. And my coach goes, "Hey, meet me down in the bullpen," and I'm like, "All right, what's up?" And he goes, "Throw it like you're throwing a second." And I looked at him and I was just like, what do you mean? And he goes, "Throw it like you're throwing a second, just off the mound." And I'm like, "All right." So I do it one time and he goes, "Off the mound, like on the rubber." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like we'll do that." And he threw some fastballs and they got dotted up a little bit. And he was just like, "Do you have a changeup?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I've never thrown like this." And he goes, "Try it." Threw like 5 to the backstop. It was not good. And he goes, "Well, do you have a breaking ball?" And I was just like, "I don't know." He goes, "Try it." And so that's where the slider came in. And he was just like, "That's pretty good. Guess what? You're pitching on Tuesday and it's Monday." And I'm like, "That's tomorrow." And he goes, "Yep." And I'm like, "All right." And so kind of found a spot there, and just ran with it. Wasn't sidearm, but kind of ran with it. It was a work in progress type thing, but it ended up panning out.
So on Monday, you're a first baseman, an over the top guy.
Mm-hmm.
He sees you throw it from first, and that's how you become a sidearm guy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
do you throw sidearm that Tuesday?
Yep.
All sidearm.
All sidearm from the mound. It was very one of those things where I'm sitting there and it's just like I can't believe this is happening. Like I've sat out 25, 26 games and he wants me to go there and do something completely different, and I just kind of ran with it. And it took a while because I would climb over the top a little more, and then some days it'd be more down. And he was just like, "All right, so in your pregame routine, I want you to act like you're fielding a ground ball and throw like you're throwing a second." And I've done that ever since, and that's what's kind of kept me where I am now. And it was a work in progress.
How long did it take you to really get comfortable coming from the side?
So I got comfortable towards the end of my freshman season, but really when I went to summer ball up in the Valley League and played for the Waynesboro Generals, I had a coach by the name of John Jeans up there, and he was just like, "Hey, like, I just want you to do your thing, be you. Like, nobody's like you out here. I haven't seen anybody like it, so be different." And I just was like, "Well, I am different." And he goes, "Dude, I know you're different. You don't have to. You could walk up to the stadium and I didn't have to tell me that." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." But he goes, like, out on the mound, I want you to be different. I want you to be that side lefty that maybe once in a lifetime people see. And so I was like, "All right, we'll just do that." And end up coming back my fall season of my sophomore year and had a really good fall. Was actually set up to be the closer for Gordon that year. And first game of the season, we were playing St. John's at their place, and Garrett Blaylock, I'm trying to think, is he a third baseman?
Yeah,
third baseman for Georgia. We were playing against him when he was down there, and pitched the first inning, went good. Second inning rolled around, and I'm like, all right. And so the second to last pitch, like, something went and popped, and I was just like, that didn't feel good. Let's try it again. And so I threw another one, and it was a ground ball back to the pitcher. I grabbed it and flicked it with my glove and ended up tearing my UCL that year in the first game. And it's kind of funny now. I was looking at the percentage of what you play in a year. It was like 0.005. And I was just like, well, I didn't have an impact, but at least I had something.
You go through that, have to rehab it back.
Yep.
Everybody talks about what the rehab process looks like for a normal over-the-top guy. Mm-hmm. Is it any different for a sidearmer?
So I ended up getting set up with a guy named Troy Jones over in Woodstock, Georgia.
No joke. That's where I'm from.
Yeah. And, Rapid Sports Performance.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Over there. And I was over there, and I just walk in one day, and I'm sitting there with a big sling and just kind of like sitting there. And behind the reception's desk is some Latin guy, and I have no idea who it is. Well, let me rephrase that. I knew it was somebody that I knew. I just didn't know who it was. And I'm sitting there, and he's just like the way I would describe it is we call him JJ, but he can't say his J, so yeah, like that's how he would talk. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I know this guy. So I'm looking through it, and I'm like, I got it. It was Jair Jurgens from the Braves team, early 10s Braves teams. Yeah. And I grew up watching this guy, and I loved him. Couldn't get enough of him. But I'm sitting there, I'm doing rehab with Jair Jurgens. Didn't talk to him probably for the first month and a half because I was too scared to. And then we had like Ben Garland, center for the Atlanta Falcons there. And then we had Jarrett Jack that played NBA. And I'm looking at all these guys, and like a bunch of other big league dudes are coming in, like Charlie Blackmon and everything. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea where I'm at, but it's probably the right place. And the rehab process was actually me and JJ throwing together, and him just working with me in it. And he was just like, hey, you're going to do the exact same things as anybody else would, but the only difference is you're going to throw side. Like, I want you to do that. That's what makes you successful. That's what makes you. And I don't want to change any of that. And Troy would help me too, but me and JJ, I still text him to this day, and I'm just like, hey, what's happening? You want to go grab some lunch just to chat? But me and him were just like rehab buddies, me, him, and Troy, and we would just work together. And it was, hey, be different, go do your thing, just do it in your way. And they kind of helped me figure that out. And it wasn't anything different than anybody else does. It was just sometimes you got to look a little slanted, but I mean, that's about it.
What's the process of you coming to Georgia Southern? Was it something that you looked and tried to see where you wanted to go? Was it a reach out from Georgia Southern? How does that process take place?
So I always wanted to go to Georgia Southern. Never out of high school. I just never got the chance to.
What was it about Georgia Southern?
So I actually, my travel ball, one of the travel ball coaches that I had is Todd Green. And I grew up around him quite a bit, and I love you, Todd. Love you, Todd, if you're listening. He was probably one of the best baseball minds, best guys just to be around and just to hear, because he was no bull crap. He's going to tell you like it is, and I can appreciate it. Not everybody does, but I like the honesty personally. Yeah. So it was kind of that, but I was at Gordon my sophomore year in the fall, and that's where we get all of our calls and everything. And I was getting calls from D2 programs like Flagler, Georgia Southwestern, and stuff. And then I got some NAIs, some D3s, and never had any D1s come reach out to me. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should just go D2. It was just kind of one of those things, whatever. And then Coach Beck actually saw me pitch, and he was just like, hey, I want our pitching coach to come see you. And I'm like, okay. And Coach Green, that's not here with us anymore, but he came and saw me, and he was just like, hey, we're going to give you a call. We want to see you throw one more time when Gordon plays Southern. And so I went and pitched against Southern, and I think I had like 2 or 3 scoreless, and he was just like, hey, we want to offer you. And kind of took my time with it, just to see what there was. And after that, just ended up coming. It was kind of a surreal moment, because I don't know, it's just where I wanted to be all along.
That's awesome. You get here to Georgia Southern, and you don't really know what your role is going to be in that bullpen. Is it going to be a mix and match type deal? You don't know what it's going to be. Did you always have the same mindset of whatever I go into, I'm just going to go until they come get me? Or did you kind of have to get ready for the mindset of what you were doing?
I would say your mindset's the same, whether you're going in for a batter, or you're going in for an inning, or a full game. It's this is my plan. This is what I do, and I'm going to do it the best that I can. And if you hit it, all right, good for you. But if you can't, you're going to have a tough day. And that's just kind of my mindset, whether it's because I know, like, when I got here, it was more matchup, more I want to say 1 outs and be done. But then some guys got hurt last year, and it ended up turning into mid relief / setup / closer. It was just kind of like a bunch of roles, but the mindset didn't change, because it's like, I'm gonna do what I do best, and if you can do it better, good for you. But if you can't, sorry.
The thing that I love about you, it doesn't matter if back when you were a mix and match guy to now you're one of the top guys in the country as far as appearances are concerned. You're the same dude. It doesn't matter what happens in the game, after the game. Now, you'll come and smack me on the back after we win. Thanks. But you're the same dude. Where does that come from?
It just comes from probably the biggest one is my mom. She sends me stuff every morning, and it's just like, hey, like, whether it's Bible verses or a motivational thing, or just reminiscing photos of like me playing basketball or travel ball days, and just kind of reminding me that, like, whatever happens or doesn't happen, like, you're still the same kid. Like you're 23 years old, but you're a kid. And that's just kind of where it comes from. And I know my dad's another part of it, big instilled. Be the same guy every day, because once you have that consistency every day, that's where you start to see results. Is everything going to go your way? No, but it's just kind of being like, if you lose the game like I did on Friday, it doesn't matter, because guess what? You have multiple chances to prove yourself throughout a season or just in life. And so and that's where it kind of comes from, because I know my mom sent me this quote multiple times, and it's Mariano Rivera. If I have a bad game, I've already forgotten about it by the time I get to the dugout, because it's already done and over with. And that's one of the best things I've probably heard, other than Yogi Berra's baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. But yeah, it's probably one of the best quotes I've been given from my mom, just because, like, you can't do anything about it. I mean, it's already done and over with, so you might as well cheer on the rest of your team and just be you.
We've talked about it a lot already, but you can tell your parents are a huge part of who you are, all the way from growing up and still today. How important is that to you to be able to share these experiences with them? I know they're at a lot of the games that Georgia Southern plays, if not every one of them. Yeah. But how important is it for you to be able to share this with them?
It's super special. I know after the semifinal win against Lafayette, I know my dad and my mom came out. That was the first person I'd wanted to see, and my dad and me just kind of like teared up just for the fact that like, hey, like we made it like to a Division I program and we're going to a championship. And did we win it? No. But like for me and my parents, that was probably one of the biggest things like that we kind of like shared together. But like them being at majority of our games, like my mom actually went to Western Michigan. Yeah, I know she wants me to shout out the Broncos, but go Eagles. Oh yeah. But she wanted to, but I've turned them Georgia Southern fans full blown. And my dad actually grew up triple option offense in high school, so he loved the offense, loved it. But yeah, no, it's really special, and it's actually really special with my sister and my brother-in-law. My sister grew up a huge Georgia fan, and she still likes the Dogs, but she's more of a Southern fan. That's what I like to.
There you go.
And my brother-in-law is a huge Southern fan now, but they just had their first niece, or first kid, and is my niece. And so like having them there with it and just kind of celebrating the wins and everything just with them is just awesome. It's one of those things that just you can't get enough of.
There's one story that I want you to tell because Danny and I were in the Wiggins building when this happened. It's last year, South Alabama. It's the beginning of May, I think. You go out and you throw 3 2/3 innings and shut down South Alabama, who came in the top team in the Eastern Division at the time. Mm-hmm. Everybody assumed at the beginning of the day that after 3 2/3 innings, you're probably done the next day. You're not going to be needed. And I think that was the Saturday going into Sunday. Mm-hmm. We get done with the pregame interview with Coach Hennon, and we're sitting there talking to Skip and Coach Green, and you just walked up out of nowhere like it was nothing and said, "Hey, I've got an inning if you need it today." Coach Green, that was the happiest I've ever seen that man.
To be honest with you, it was one of those things where before the series started, I knew what the records were. I knew where we were in the conference. I knew where we were in the East Division, and after we got snubbed on the first day, and we won the second day, I was like, all right, if we win here, we're at the top. Like we can do this. And it was just kind of I walk in, I move my arm a little bit, and I'm like, I'm really not that sore. And so I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna see what they say. If they say no, all right, whatever. But there's no harm in asking, and so, or telling really. And I was just like, hey, I got an inning, give it to me. And I know you and Danny were, oh my gosh, it was. I think everybody at Georgia Southern heard y'all scream, that's for sure, laugh, or all of the above. But it was just one of those things where I think the moment mattered more than how I felt. And I know my mom was not happy when I said I could go because of my arm surgery the 2 years before. But I wanted that win. I wanted to be at the top. And it was just kind of like we can do this. Like they're not as good as everybody said they were. Like I think we're the better team, and that's kind of the reason why I did it.
And then you do come out and throw an inning.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Oh, it wasn't awesome after I came on the mound. I was like, yep, that's it. I'm done.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done.
You talk about knowing what that series meant with South Alabama last week. How much are you in tune of what's going around Sun Belt Conference baseball. Like this weekend, Georgia Southern heads to San Marcos. It's a Texas State team that earlier on today got ranked number 10 in the top 25 polls by D1 Baseball. How much do you stay in tune? Because there's some guys that look at it, some guys that could care less. How much are you into it?
I won't lie, I'm a stat watcher. I love looking at my own stats. I love looking at our team stats, and I look at records. To be honest with you, the one game that I didn't this year was the College of Charleston game, and it wasn't anything against them. It was just I just hadn't looked at it, and my mom texted me and goes, they beat Texas, and I said, hold up, wow, all right, I got to start stat watching a little bit. But no, I'm a big stat watcher. I know that if we sweep them this weekend, we're at the top, and if we take two out of three, we're one behind them still. It's just something that I think if somebody said that, like, oh yeah, I have no idea, I don't believe them, because I think everybody, like, if you're in your sport, they know. And it may not be individual stats, but at least a team, team records and stuff, I think people know. And so I'm amped up for it. I'm so amped up for it. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a good old time down there. I know the boys are ready to go find some cowboy hats and boots down there as well.
You going with a cowboy hat again?
I am. I will be in my cowboy hat attire, and I may or may not drop a good check on some authentic cowboy boots. So.
You going belt buckle too? I mean, whole nine yards.
No belt buckle.
We're not going flannel.
No, we got to wear our team issued polos.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right.
So
one last thing I wanted to touch on, and something that I didn't know until we were talking about it before we went live here tonight. You graduated with a supply chain management degree. Mm-hmm. You're going to graduate with a marketing degree, mm-hmm. and you're going to grad school.
Yes.
To be able to do that much academically here at Georgia Southern, what's that mean?
It means a lot. I know my dad always said it for the longest time. Hey, you could get a degree in butt wiping for all I care, but I just need you to get a 4-year. And I'm like, all right. And at first it was exercise science, then it went to business, then back to exercise science, then to business. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and being here just kind of helped me figure that out, and it's meant a lot. I might not use my supply chain degree, and I may not use my marketing degree, but yeah, it's meant a lot, because this is the place where I wanted to get it. This was the place where I wanted to be. But being able to go to grad school for a teaching degree means a lot, because I think I've always contemplated whether I wanted to coach or not, and I thought maybe at the college level, but that takes a toll on you and your family, and so I'm kind of hesitant about it a little bit, but I think if I could be a high school teacher and be a coach to some high schoolers as well, and be kind of influential to them, and just kind of, whether it be on the field or in the classroom or in life, like I've been through it, and so kind of help them in the ways that my coaches have helped me, and that's what I kind of want to pass down since being here.
This has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate you taking the time. Absolutely love getting to know you over the last couple of years.
Yes,
We've
sir.
had a lot of fun, stories over the years, but it's an absolute honor to be able to watch you do what you do, both on the field and off the field. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate you.
We'll continue on this week's edition of Inside Eagle Nation. We catch up with the ESPN voice of the Texas State Bobcats to dive into Georgia Southern Texas State this weekend. Here's Brant Freeman. Look ahead at the week coming up for Georgia Southern baseball, as they will head to San Marcos to take on the number 10 team in the country in the Texas State Bobcats. And to dive into what the Bobcats look like in 2022 is the ESPN voice for the Texas State Bobcats program in Brant Freeman. Brant, appreciate you joining us, buddy.
Colin, looking forward to it as always. I've hopped on a few of your podcasts throughout this athletic year, and this will be the first time that I will have done a Georgia Southern event since football way back in November. So it's been way too long since you guys came down to St. Marcos.
There's no doubt about that. This is one of the few weekends that we will actually allow people to not mute the ESPN broadcast, and
it's
turn
really
it on
okay
us.
if you do.
But dive into this Texas State team. I know the polls coming out in the last couple of days. Texas State as high as 8, I think, in the collegiate baseball, 10th in D1 baseball.
Mm-hmm.
What does this 2022 Texas State team look like? And I know there's a lot of excitement around the program.
It's kind of remarkable, Colin, especially when you consider where this team was a year ago. 21 wins the entire year, 2021, and they've already surpassed that 29 games into this season. And you look at the quality of opponents that they've beaten, right? They won a series at Arizona. They split a midweek series with then number 1 ranked Texas, who's still ranked in the top 10 as well. They have not lost a weekend yet, which is incredible. You get to the end of March, early part of April, and to not have a losing weekend is really hard to do. And they've done that. They've won series, over Utah Valley, Ohio State, Arizona, Southern, Arkansas State, Coastal Carolina, and then Appalachia State this past weekend. So, and as you guys know, as good as the Eagles have been, that, winning in Boone can be tough. It's not a great environment. And so your players have to really dig deep to get up for a game like that. Texas ball players not accustomed to the colder temperatures, that they saw this past weekend in Boone. And baseball is a random enough game where, a ball bounces, doesn't bounce your way. Then, you come up short and drop 2-3. That hasn't happened yet. And so it's been a really special season so far. It's great to see them getting recognized for it, not only in the Sun Belt, but nationally. And hopefully this keeps up, because as a lot of Bobcat fans recall, in 2019, they had a great year, won the Sun Belt title, but then went to the tournament, lost their 2 games, and didn't play again. This team has aspirations not only to win a championship, but they want to go back to the NCAA tournament. Haven't been there in 11 years. So far, halfway through the season, it's been pretty special.
Talk about the impact that Steven Trout has had on this program, taking over for Ty Harrington 3 years ago. What is it about? And I know he's carried on a lot of what Coach Harrington has done with that program, but also kind of put his own twist on it.
Yeah, I think that when Ty stepped down, everybody really wanted Steve Trout to get the job. And not just because everybody knew him, but knew the job that he could do. He's really earned his stripes. Played at TCU, went on to play some independent pro league ball and got out of that pretty quick and got into coaching. Spent some time as a GA at Texas State, and then, worked his way around coaching the JUCO ranks, was at West Virginia, when they were just kind of starting their program, and then came back full circle to Texas State. And so he's got a lot of experience around the game. He's well respected, and not just by his colleagues, but by the players too. You can tell that he's certainly a player's coach, and he fights for them. I mentioned the record a year ago, 21-36. Kind of a funny story about Steve Trout. On his lock screen on his phone is a piece of paper with a number written 21-36, the win-loss record from last year. It's still there to this day. It's been on his phone since about June of last year. It's been a source of motivation for him all season long. So he's done a really good job. There's been continuity with the staff. And as Eagle fans can attest to with Rodney Hennon, that goes a long way, towards building a foundation, building a culture. When Ty Harrington stepped down and Steve Trout stepped up, there weren't any changes among the staff either. Chad Massengale, the pitching coach, retained. Josh Blakely left briefly but came back. I think that was after the short COVID year or before it. And the volunteer coach has even been the same the whole time. So having the continuity on the staff has really helped tremendously, with where the program is now.
We were talking about it with Jay Walker and Brad Topham down in Louisiana this past weekend. There seems to be a different confidence, a different swagger about this team this year than you've seen in the last couple of years for Texas State.
That's definitely true. And if you see the end of games, you see that confidence pouring out a little bit. I'm sure the Bobcats are getting a little bit of a reputation, with their colleagues, with the way they like to talk a little bit, but they're earning it right now. If you don't want them to talk, beat them. And you're right. They're not afraid of anybody. The confidence which they played with against Texas was remarkable. They didn't look up at Texas. They felt as if they were on the same level, for those two games. Arizona, 11th ranked team of the country at the time, dropped the opening game, brushed it off, came back and won the next two. A very business-like approach for this team, but they're having a lot of fun doing it as well. There's a lot of vets. The team lost a number of players from last year, a number of COVID seniors who elected to come back. And they left, but there were a number of guys that returned, namely Dalton Sheffield, who's a name a lot of Sunbelt fans know by now. Probably feels like he's been there for 8 years by this point. John Wuthridge is now healthy. He wasn't last year, missed 2 months with a broken hand, and when he did return, this wasn't himself. He's back to form and then some this season. So those are some of the positional players that bring a veteran-like presence to the team. And then the pitching staff has honestly been the biggest difference this year. There was a lot of concern because the rotation from last year was pretty much decimated. Namely, Zach Lee, the Friday night starter, got drafted, moved on, with his life. But Zeke Wood has stepped into the Friday role and has definitely looked the part. They brought in Levi Wells from Texas Tech, and he's pitching with a lot of confidence and arguably is the best starter in the rotation. And I mentioned Stivers, and you mentioned the swagger they play with. Probably nobody exemplifies that more than Stivers, who is probably the best reliever I've ever seen, with his program. And it's incredible. He will go out there, he'll pitch all 3 games of the series. He'll throw a 2-inning save on a Friday, come in to get the final 3 outs on Saturday, and pitch 3 innings of relief on Sunday to get the win. I've never seen a reliever just want the ball so much like Stivers and go out there and prove it too. So I think a lot of the confidence comes from players like him and some of the vets I mentioned.
You talked about Stivers, but on that pitching staff, the front end for Texas State, Zeke Wood on Friday, the Friday night starter, Levi Wells on Saturday. What do those two really bring? You talked about with the rotation kind of being decimated from last year. You didn't know what you were getting. How big has it been to have those two step up?
Oh, it's been huge. Zeke Wood tends to set the table for the entire series. His strikeout numbers have been really impressive so far this year. Was Sunbelt Pitcher of the Week at one point earlier this season. He was kind of a spot starter a year ago and didn't seem to pitch with a lot of confidence, and got in great shape over the offseason, and confidence is not an issue with him right now. And Levi Wells was at a great program before, Texas Tech. Didn't get many opportunities, but if the Red Raider program is an eye for talent, which we know that they do because they've been a really good program the last 5 or 6 years, then you felt good about bringing a guy like that in, and so you get to the middle game of the series, and either you're trying to even things up or go up 2-0, and you feel really good about going with Levi Wells. Kind of the question mark for them, as good as the season has been, is starting pitching depth. That's probably a question mark for every team in the Sun Belt. With the Bobcats, even with the ranking, is no different. In fact, they made a change with their Sunday starter this past weekend at App State. Tony Roby had been the guy all year long. They decided to go with Cameron Bush this past Sunday against Appalachian State. The midweek game they have coming up Tuesday against Texas A&M. Don't know who's starting that game yet. Travis Sundgren has struggled his last 2 midweek starts. So the top 2 the top 2 starters are great, but there certainly are question marks after that.
Flip it over to the offensive side. You mentioned Dalton Sheffield a little bit earlier. Somebody that's hitting almost 370 and this deep into the season. That's pretty fantastic. Somebody that's got to be in the discussion. Just 3 weeks into Sunbelt play, but got to be in discussion for Player of the Year candidate. Mm-hmm. What is it about his game that's kind of gone to the next level this year?
It was funny. You look at him and you wouldn't translate the numbers that you see. He's a 5-tool player, hits for average, hits for power, can run the bases, and defends extremely well. And also has really good baseball IQ. Baseball runs in the family. His dad was drafted in '85, actually ahead of Randy Johnson and Will Clark, by the way. Got drafted by the Royals. Never made it to the big leagues, but obviously a great baseball player in his own right. And Dalton Sheffield grew up around the game. You referenced Ty Harrington's name earlier. Of course, he's now my partner on the telecasts, and he's described him as a baseball rat. Just just absolutely has a passion for the game, and it really shows in the field. The way he defends his position at shortstop, his approaches at the plate, doesn't give in on 2 strike counts, has a great approach there. You can stick him anywhere in the lineup, he's going to succeed. So there's just there's something very special about his year this year, and you probably saw it coming too when he was a freshman. I remember his freshman season, the Bobcats were struggling in a series in Atlanta and decided to, like, you know what, let's give the kid a chance, and goes up there and just smokes Georgia State's pitching. And he hasn't lost his job since then, really. There was a shortstop at the time who was a senior, Luke Shirley. They stuck Sheffield in the out in left, and his first midweek game was at Texas A&M, and he throws a runner out at home without hitting the relay man. And so again, you really kind of saw this early on, and to now see him all these years later, it's really come together for him. And I'm with you. I feel like he definitely is in the conversation, if not the front runner for Player of the Year.
He's got a couple of pieces around him in that lineup too. You look at a guy like Justin Thompson, a 330 average on the year. Got somebody with 7 home runs, and John Wuthridge that you talked about earlier, finally healthy for this Texas State Bobcats team. Mm-hmm. How big is it to have those guys around him in that lineup?
It means lineup protection. It means that every one of those guys are going to see pitches. You know, where if your lineup is centered around 1 or 2 guys, they may not be getting as many pitches to hit, but they are. You know, and really, there's not a ton of holes in the lineup right now, 1 through 9. Ben Mclean has really come on strong recently. Hit a couple of home runs in the Appalachian State Series, including an important 2-run homer in the opener on Friday, homered again Sunday. He's been coming through big. All these vets, and there's Dalen Pena, a true freshman from Corpus Christi, who has looked really good so far this season. Hit a grand slam against Texas in one of the 2 games against them. And so because there's not many holes in the lineup, against so many guys are seeing pitches to hit, which has been great so far this season. I think it's why some of the numbers are so high for players like Thompson and Wuthridge and Sheffield, because the guys behind them and in front of them are getting on base.
Seeing this team from afar, it seems like there is zero quit in this team. When we talk about it with Georgia Southern this year, find a way to win, but there's been a lot of times where Texas State has been down early in games, and we've talked about it with Arkansas State in that series, down in the first 2 games and had to come back to win the game. It seems like there's a no quit, never quit mentality with this team.
If I recall correctly, of their 23 wins now, I believe in 12 of them they've been behind at some point. And of their Sun Belt wins, I think all but 2 they trailed at some point. And those 2 came in the final 2 games of the App State series. So sometimes it's frustrating, to be honest with you, Colin, because, you know, they'll play poorly in the first few innings and they're down 5-1 or whatever the case may be. And as great as their bravado can be in coming from behind, you can only live like that for so long. But there is something to be said, yes, that this is truly a 27-out team. You got to get that 27 before you feel good about it, because they're so capable of coming back. Down 6-0 in the Sun Belt opener against Arkansas State, won that game. Down 8-1 in the finale against Coastal Carolina in the rubber match of the series, came back to win that game. Trailed early against Appalachian State Friday, came back to win that game. So this lineup can just wear you down. They can chase starters out early, get to a bullpen, and get them out too. And something that I've noticed as well, because of their ability to hit so well the second or third time through the order, get to that bullpen early in the series, it exhausts it by the time you get to Sunday. And so because of the way they have played Friday and Saturday, it sets up Sunday so well, they're seeing, you know, the back end of the bullpen by Sunday and just hammering that pitching. And so you're right. Yeah, this team, anytime, if you were the opponent, you can't feel good about a lead no matter what inning you're in.
Something I wanted to touch on with you. You mentioned it earlier, but Ty Harrington, former head coach for the Texas State Bobcats, now joining you on the ESPN broadcast for Texas State. What has it been like to have him transition to the booth? And I know getting to hang out with you guys for a game in non-conference a couple of years ago, he's somebody that knows his baseball and loves what he's doing.
So he is taking this thing and running with it. Like, he loves it. I remember approaching him at a casual, like, football hype up event before a season opener, I think back in 2019. And I said, "Hey, Ty, we're going to start doing baseball this year. Now, I know you just hung up the manager's or the head coach's clipboard. How do you feel about jumping on TV?" And nobody had ever asked him that before. Obviously, he was preoccupied with coaching, but he hadn't even thought about it before. And so he said, "Yeah, that sounds great." For him, initially, it was a way to stay connected to the game. That's still the case now. That's why he loves doing it. But he goes back and watches games. He watches other broadcasts. He's asking for feedback constantly. And he's trying to do more than what he's doing here with us. In fact, when the schedule allows for him, he's also jumping on with Texas and doing their radio broadcasts as an analyst. Now, Ty, of course, is a Texas alum, played baseball there, has many great connections with Texas. And I remember Craig Way, the radio voice of the Longhorns, reached out to me and asked if that was okay. And I said, absolutely. Ty wants to expand his broadcast horizons. So, if that's what he wants to do and it gives him a chance to get more reps and get his name out there, then by all means, have him go do it for you. I mentioned that the Bobcats are playing at A&M Tuesday. Ty can't make it because he's working a Texas game in Austin on Tuesday. And so he's really embraced his broadcasting, and he's done so well with it too. A lot of times, I don't try to make analysts look foolish or anything like that, or throw things at them hoping that they'll mess up. But I will throw things at Ty because I know he can handle it. And so anything we bring up, if it's something about baseball, if it's about something random like Seinfeld, which I'll throw into the broadcast, he can take a part of that conversation. And, it went from a broadcaster coach relationship for so many years with him to now just a pure friendship with him. And it's been great.
That's awesome. Remind Eagle Nation of what the atmosphere around Bobcat Ballpark is for a series. Georgia Southern and Texas State haven't seen each other since 2019 in a series. It's been since 2018 since Georgia Southern made the trip down to Bobcat Ballpark. Remind Eagle Nation what it's like for the atmosphere around there.
It's fun, as you know, Colin. The weather expected to be really nice. Not too hot. It's definitely not cold here this time of year either. So, it's a great atmosphere in that regard. The fans have been showing out a little bit more this year. The success has had a lot to do with that. They've added some different concession items over there now. They do. I don't know. I don't remember this is the case in 2018 or not, but they now sell alcohol, at the ballpark. They have, like I said, more concessions beyond the usual fare of hot dogs and popcorn. There's a barbecue vendor that's now on site there at the ballpark. Fans will tailgate outside the right field fence, ahead of time. I know there's been great tailgate environments out there as well. The ballpark seats about 2,500, and all the seating is shaded. There's an awning that sits over that as well. So you're not going to bake in the sun necessarily. And the fans are very engaged too. One of the neat features about the ballpark, not that Georgia Southern fans can just go over there, but up the first base line, there is a caboose. It's a converted train car that's now serving as a suite. And you'll see a lot of Texas State VIPs hanging out there, kicking back a few, having a good time. And it's positioned near the opponent dugout. And there's it's friendly banter. It's not a lot of trash talking, honestly, but it's friendly banter between the people at the caboose and the visiting players. If there is any trash talking, it would come from our students. I remember for the Texas game, and I think it was the largest crowd we ever had when they came in March 8th, and they were giving it to the Longhorns, so much so that I'm sure you saw it on social media. When the game ended, Texas won the game, they were waving goodbye to all the fans, and Trey Faltini specifically, Texas's shortstop, was talking a lot of trash and autographed baseballs to give to the people who were talking trash to him. I don't know if there'll be an environment quite like that this weekend because there's an organic rivalry with Texas because of geography and because of who Texas is. But from time to time, the trash talking will come from the stands from the students here.
Looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a really good series of baseball for Georgia Southern and Texas State. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Colin. I can't wait for this weekend.
doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Between Brant Freeman, Jay Thompson, that is a packed episode. But Georgia Southern baseball getting set for three this weekend in San Marcos, 4 this week overall. The first one at home against the Kennesaw State Owls. Owls come in 18-9 overall, 7-2 in ASUN play, a top 15 RPI team. And then Georgia Southern will head down to San Marcos to take on the Texas State Bobcats.